Hello, welcome to the Self Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 6, and we are continuing our topic Functionalism in Social Anthropology. And our topic is permanent vital sequences incorporated in all cultures. For instance, the impulse of somnolence accompanies the act of sleep, resulting in satisfaction by awakening with restored energy. Malinowski follows this 11-fold paradigm with a set of 7 biological needs and their respective cultural responses. These are metabolism, cultural response is commensurate. The second basic need is reproduction. Cultural response is kinship. Third basic need is bodily comfort. Cultural response is shelter. Fourth basic need is safety. Cultural response is protection. Fifth basic need is movement. Cultural response is activities. Sixth basic need is growth. Cultural response is training. And seventh basic need is health. Cultural response is hygiene. For example, the first need is of food, and the cultural mechanisms are centered on the processes of food getting, for which Malinowski uses the term commensurate, which means convoy that transports food. Similarly, the second need is of reproduction, and the cultural response to which is kinship, concerned with the regulating sex and marriage. From this, Malinowski goes on to fourfold sequences, which he calls the instrumental imperatives, and associates each one of them with their respective cultural responses. The fourfold sequence is of economy, social control, education, and political organization. From here, he shifts to the symbolic system of religion, magic, beliefs, and values, examining its role in culture. Now let us move to the next point, that is functionalism of Talcott Parson 1902 to 1979 and Robert K. Merton 1910 to 2003. In 1975, in an important article, Parsons labels his student Robert Merton and himself arch functionalist. He also explains here why he has abandoned the term structural functionalism, which at one time he used for his approach. For him, structure refers to any set of relations among parts of a living organism. On empirical grounds, he says it can be assumed or shown that these relations are stable over a time period. By process, which is the correlative concept with structure, one refers to the changes that occur in the state of the system or its relevant parts. With respect to structure, the key concept is of stability, and with respect to the process, it is of change. Thus, by structure, we refers to a pattern of relationships in a social system, and process refers to the changes occurring in that system. A significant characteristic of structural functionalism has been that it has stressed structure more than process. In the article mentioned above, Parsons states that the concept of function stands at a higher level of theoretical generality. It is far from analytical than the concept of structure or even process, although function encompasses the latter. It is because the concept of function is concerned with the consequences of the existence and the nature of structures that can be empirically described, and it is also concerned with the processes that take place in these systems. Parsons thinks that his original formulation under the rubric of structural functionalism tends to analyze society as if it is static. But the new formulation, where stress is laid on the concept of function than structure, in the name of functionalism, takes much more account of change and evolution. The new formulation sets out to examine the functions of processes and their consequences for static structures. For example, one may examine in American context the function of the process of education of women on static structures like family. Parsons' functionalism is best known in terms of functional imperatives, the essential conditions required for the enduring existence of a system, also known as AGIL model, based on the first letter of the four functions that Parsons has devised, or the four function paradigm. It evolved from the Parsons collaborative work with Robert F. Ballard in experiments on the leadership in small groups. These four functions help us to explain how a state of balance emerges in a system. One of the important problems in society for Parsons is what he has called the Hobbesian problem of order. He calls it so after the famous political philosopher Thomas Hobbes, one of the founders of the theory of social contract, who was concerned with the question of how order comes in society. Parsons explores the role of these four functions in giving rise to the equilibrium in a system. Now let us wind up the session and take rest. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning podcast.